all people that have a lot of money. I know 20 of you and you're rich as hell. We're going to give you tax cuts.
Aside from more tax cuts for the rich as hell, what's the economic plan for Trump's second term? Project 2025, the agenda drafted by Trump allies, including officials from his first term, details a slate of economic policies that would make life more expensive, harder, and more dangerous for anyone who isn't rich as hell. 3 key facts. Number 1, Trump and Project 2025 would raise taxes on middle and low-income Americans while cutting taxes for the rich. Page 696 proposes a 2-tier tax system of 15% for low and moderate income Americans and 30% for everyone else. Now, that might sound reasonable, but it would actually be a tax increase for families earning less than $94,000 a year and a tax cut for the people at the top. The plan also would repeal provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act that tax corporations and save consumers money. It would strip Medicare of the power to negotiate drug prices, allowing Big Pharma to send the price of insulin and other life-saving medications back through the roof. But that's just the beginning. Page 698 lays out a longer-term goal of phasing out tiered income taxes altogether and shifting to something more like a 30% national sales tax, so that middle and low-income Americans would be paying a lot more for everything, while the richest Americans would contribute an even smaller share of their wealth.
Look, no taxes!
And the plan proposes changing the law to require a 3/5 majority in Congress to ever raise an income or corporate tax again, essentially making it impossible to ever make the rich or corporations pay a larger share. And whatever the rich would still owe, they could more easily get away without paying, because on page 699, the plan calls for slashing the IRS budget, making it easier for the rich to cheat on their taxes, and harder for you to get your refund quickly. And of course, these tax cuts for the rich require slashing spending on programs like school lunches, see page 302, children's education programs like Head Start, see page 482, and expansion of broadband internet access, see page 855. Number 2, Trump and Project 2025 would strip away workplace protections. Page 589 lays out a plan to change overtime for remote workers, allowing them to work longer hours without going into overtime and making it easier for bosses to require them to be always on call. Page 592 proposes scrapping the 40-hour work week in favor of a 160-hour work month, so your boss could force you to work extra hours or work for weeks with no days off, but get out of paying you any overtime by cutting your hours later in the month. And if all these extra hours make it hard for you to find childcare, that's too bad, because page 486 specifically rejects federally funded daycare. Project 2025 also would make it easier for bosses to get out of offering benefits like healthcare and paid time off by labeling employees as independent contractors, as detailed on page 591. Plans on page 594 would weaken the National Labor Relations Board, making it harder for workers to unionize and bargain for better wages. Page 595 lays out plans to weaken child labor regulations, specifically rolling back restrictions on children working, quote, inherently dangerous jobs. And what little workplace protections would be left would be hard to enforce, because page 615 calls for cutting the Department of Labor's budget nearly in half. Number 3, if you've got student debt, you're screwed under Trump and Project 2025. On page 322, the plan mocks the very idea of student debt relief. Then on pages 354 and 361, it gets more specific about how to eliminate student debt relief, including ending the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program for people like teachers and nurses. This would hurt not just the 44 million Americans who have student debt, but the economy as a whole, since debt-ridden Americans have less money to spend, are less likely to start a business, even if that's what they went to school to learn how to do, are less likely to buy a home, and are more likely to rely on government assistance. Those are just a few of the economic policies, and the economic policies are just part of a nearly 1,000-page sweeping plan that would fundamentally change the nature of America, our healthcare system, our military, our environment, our elections, and our civil liberties, for the most part without needing to involve Congress. I urge you to read the plan for yourself at their website, project2025.org. I'm Alan Piper at apiper13. Follow Courier Newsroom for all the election info you need.